My entitled family wants to take my house and give it to my brother, even though they kicked me out and left me homeless. Parents told my brother that he could take my house and I could just live in the camper in the backyard because I'm single and he has a wife and kids. I'll warn everyone here that this is going to be very long, so long that I'm splitting it into 2 posts and including a TLDR for each. I also really don't care who believes this. It's just so crazy that I don't blame anyone who calls BS. I won't argue about it, but this happened to me. I also really don't care if anyone in my family sees this. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. But I'm also not going to reveal any details that'd clue anyone into who I am that doesn't already know me. I'm a single man in my early 30s. I've got a brother who's 29 and he's already got 4 kids now. He had his first at 22 and the second followed a year later. Then the third 2 years after that. And the fourth is the most recently born a couple months ago. His wife, my sister-in-law, and I do not get along as she always likes to try and get a rise out of me by acting superior. Then turns into an extreme self-victimizing drama queen if I retaliated against her in any way. She can cry in an instant and can put on an extremely convincing show to get sympathy from just about anyone. My parents and brother absolutely adore her, even though they know exactly how she really is and just don't care. She's very good looking, I'll give her that. But she's so awful that I could never be attracted to her. She also refuses to get any sort of job, even though she has a college degree, and my mother willingly helps with the kids all day. So their finances are entirely dependent on my brother. This also means they can't afford to live anywhere but my parents' house. And privacy is a bit of an issue with all of them under one roof in a 3-bedroom house that was built in the 60s. Growing up, my younger brother was also the obvious favorite. We're 3 years apart in age, but he developed a superiority complex because I was badly punished if I retaliated against his antics in any way back then. It was obvious my parents cared for him a lot more because he got the lion's share of everything unless people called them out on it. Which did happen a fair bit by other members of family, which is why my parents packed us all up and moved us about 150 miles away from them, so they generally would only see us on holidays since it was a 3-hour drive. My brother got physically abusive towards me on a number of occasions, flirted relentlessly with my first girlfriend to the point she broke up with me, and laughed at any misfortune I had. And my parents just told me to suck it up whenever I was upset about it. I only got equal treatment when my parents wanted to keep up appearances. I admit it was rather funny to see the looks on their faces whenever they had to treat me equal to my brother on birthdays and Christmas because other people were present. We had relatives that were very nosy and loved gossiping drama. So my parents did their best to hide what was really going on and threatened to take all my stuff away if I didn't keep my mouth shut. If anything, it just made my parents celebrate more when I turned 18 and moved out because it meant they no longer had to provide for me. I wasn't even done with high school yet when I moved out. But couch surfing was far better than living with them. I was low contact ever since leaving home. They didn't even show up for my high school graduation. But I really didn't care. From that point on, I would usually only see my parents and brother on holidays like the rest of the family. The start 2020 endemic was not kind to me. I lost my job and couldn't renew the lease on the condo because my roommate also lost his job and neither of us could afford the place on unemployment money. It was a rented 2-bedroom condo that I really loved. As the lease was ending, my roommate left early to move back in with relatives, and I had to sell nearly all of my stuff because I was soon going to be homeless if I didn't downsize to an extreme. I really shouldn't have rented a place that was so expensive. But I liked living the high life. Until that life wasn't kind to me. And I realized I should have been living somewhere far cheaper so I could have saved more money to fall back on. But I had a plan. I own a truck simply for the fact that I've always loved trucks, so I found a $1,000 camper in good shape and put it on my truck just so I could live out of it for a while. It was supposed to be temporary, but I ended up living out of it far longer than I ever thought. I originally was hoping to be able to live out of the camper at my parents' house, where my brother and his family still reside as well. But when I asked my parents to let me stay for a while, they told me they had a full house and didn't want me there. Plus, we hadn't exactly gotten along in the past decade. They said they'd only agree to let me park my camper there if I paid them basically what it'd cost to rent an apartment in my area. That was way too much just to park my camper. I was jobless and trying to save as much of my unemployment money as I could till I could find a new job. I may as well be living in an apartment with that rent price they were asking. My parents called my camper an eyesore and told me to take a hike since we couldn't come to an agreement. And sister-in-law thought it was absolutely hilarious I had to live in a camper. My brother joined her in pointing at and mocking me while calling me a homeless bum. I parked my truck camper in a store parking lot to sleep on the first night that I had nowhere else to go. I felt scared out of my mind that someone might try to break in. Suffice to say, I didn't sleep well that night. There was nowhere else I could go as any other relatives that owned houses were fairly far away, and all my friends were all apartment people. And I was pretty attached to my area as well. So I didn't want to just leave. I'd also had my mail forwarded to a friend's apartment. It was the only way I could still get my mail anymore. Finding a stable place to park was pretty difficult. I went looking around to try and find a job similar to my old one. It took months of living the nomadic camper life. In that time, I had to deal with a lot. Everything from beggars and drug addicts to people demanding I leave because my camper was an eyesore. At one point, someone who told me to move claimed to be with an HOA. I wasn't even parked on a street with houses. And when I questioned, "What HOA?" they got incredibly belligerent and threatened me. I moved my camper anyway just to avoid the trouble. In order to have a steady supply of electricity, I learned to use a long extension cord to plug in anywhere I could to recharge my camper batteries. This meant sneaking around and plugging it into an outside outlet of a random building while parked on a street. I know that's a crumby thing to do, but I had to keep my batteries charged so my refrigerator would stay cold. I had a small solar power bank for recharging my phone, but I didn't have anything like a generator, and generators are noisy and require fuel anyway. So I did what I had to do. After months of living like that, I finally managed to get a new job. I had to move to the neighboring city to find a job that didn't involve retail. I worked retail while in college and promised myself never again. Though I was nearly ready to break that promise. I was still getting unemployment money, but I had no stable place to live while receiving it. And I didn't want to still be jobless when it ran out. Plus, I was bored out of my mind. I had little else to do but read, watch movies on a small portable DVD player, use my phone or laptop, and keep note of where I could park and what local public bathrooms I could use. I kind of envy that the Japanese have public bathhouses. We could really use stuff like that over here. When I finally landed a new job, I practically lived in the back lot of the building by the warehouse in old employee parking spaces literally no one else seemed to bother using because they were so far in the back that the area was borderline forgotten. My boss/company owner actually liked this arrangement because I was willingly available to take any shift I could get, so long as I had enough sleep. He even let me take the camper off my truck and set it up in one of the spaces so I could drive around without it. Not exactly sure if this was legal, but no one bothered us about it. The entire time I lived back there, I didn't have to deal with many trespassers. There were a few, but the security guards escorted them out. I was pretty much on call almost all the time when they needed me and was working virtually every day of the week. My boss let me plug my camper into the building for power and water, and I paid a small amount of rent by working for free on Sundays when no one else was in the office but the janitor and security guard. Beyond that, I usually had to shower at a friend's apartment or at my local gym as the camper didn't have a shower in it and only a portable toilet. And I didn't want to fill it because emptying it is a nasty chore. So I used other bathrooms as often as I could. I had a key to the warehouse and could go in to use the bathroom there at any hour. I was even on a first-name basis with the night security guard. He's since become one of my closest friends. The camper was easy to heat in the winter with a small electric heater. Summers were not fun though. The camper didn't have AC, so I had to get a used portable air conditioner just to make it bearable. I made a lot of overtime pay and hands-on learned some new skills from other employees. Eventually, midway into this year, I landed a better position in the company as a supervisor and started making a better salary than my old job. That's when I decided I wanted a house. The scare I'd gotten from losing my condo made me realize I needed something much more stable for the long term. I looked around for something close to my work and just 2 miles away found a 3-bedroom manufactured home on a small property. But I managed to get it for $10,000 less than the asking price somehow. I used nearly my entire savings for a down payment and got approved for a home loan. I finally didn't have to live in a camper anymore. There was enough space for me to back my truck in behind the house to take the camper off to set it up in the backyard. So I put it there as its own little building just in case I want to use it again. When I was fully settled in the house, I was dumb enough to brag about it on my book of faces. My family saw the post, and that's where this shit really starts. After a few weeks, my parents and brother along with his family came to visit completely unannounced to have a tour of my home. I didn't even give them my address. So, how they found out where I live, I still don't know. None of my friends have fessed up, and no prior family members visited me before that. So I wonder if they stalked me at work and followed me home or something. It really wouldn't surprise me. Once I opened the door, they practically all shoved their way in like rambunctious tourists, then just started making themselves at home. They all kept poking around, and sister-in-law had this creepy smirk that she was repeatedly flashing me. And it was only later that I figured out why. And it made me madder than a bull on steroids that just got stung by a hornet. My parents were constantly talking about how I've got so much extra space now, and it's too much for someone like me who has no wife or kids. Sure, not now, but maybe someday. And my brother kept remarking about how there was more space than our parents' house, and my house was closer to his job too. Red flags all around, I know. Eventually, my brother asked me to speak privately. Everyone else suddenly left the room and piled out onto the front porch. That's what finally made me realize they'd planned something. My brother, let's call him Dan for the sake of simplicity, said the house was too much for me alone, and I should let him move in with his family because his wife is pregnant with kid number 4, and my house is much closer to his job. He pointed out that I already have the camper, so I could just live in that outside while they live in the main house. And I'd like to point out that Dan never once spoke of offering rent. Mind you, he's got a good job. He also started talking about how there would be changes and even curfews, and that I couldn't just walk in at any time without prior notice. If it weren't my brother, I'd think the person I was talking to had lost their mind. But Dan lost his marbles long ago thanks to our parents treating him like he was the center of the world. I tried to speak, but he kept talking over me as if I had no say in the matter. There was no way in hell I'd rent my house or parts of my house to him. Other people maybe, just so I can pay the mortgage off more easily. But certainly not him or his nasty wife. I've heard of this exact kind of situation in videos online many times, and never once did I think I'd actually live it because I thought it so ludicrous. But my parents, brother and sister-in-law do all fit the bill for a bunch of narcissistic entitled crazies. So I picked up my phone and set it to start recording, then just held onto it. Dan didn't even seem to care or notice that I'd done this and just sat there with his arms waving around while talking about all the reasons of why he needed my house. Then went from saying that to acting like it was a done deal and trying to reach out his hand to shake mine. That's when I finally showed my backbone and said, "Hell no." And I said it loud enough that Dan stumbled backward for a second.
I would get an order of protection against the sister-in-law. I would also invest in security cameras and upgrade the locks. Maybe even invest in a big dog to act as guard dog for the property. That way, when they return, you have proof of trespassing.
Do not get a guard dog. With people as unstable as OP's family, they are just as likely to kill the dog by feeding it poisoned meat or shoot it and claim self-defense for a poor pregnant woman.
I have heard of people who use a recording of a large dog barking, maybe triggered by a motion detector near the front door, to discourage visitors. You could even keep a set of large dog dishes, one for food, one for water, by the back door. Label them Spike, or Fang, or some equally menacing name. Put a beware of the dog sign on your front fence if you have one. If you don't have a fence, get one with a locking gate so they would have to break in to get to the house. If you do want a real dog, go ahead and get one, but don't let it out unless you're with it, so they can't harm it unless they're willing to be recorded doing it. Enjoy your home.
Absolutely. The last thing the OP wants is to come home to the family squatting in their house, since the legal system to deal with that is very slow and police will often shrug and say without an order from the court they can't do anything.
Shotgun full of rock salt.
Okay, homie, I read it all, and hot damn. Here's my 2 cents. 1. Go no contact with the lunatics, no matter what. 2. Do them a solid and send that recording to the rest of your family. That way you can go to the extended family holidays without having those crazies around. 3. Don't be sad about it. It ain't your fault that your brother can't come in your sister-in-law when he has a big enough space, and definitely not your fault cause she refuses to work when your parents already babysit the kids. 4. Keep your insanely strong mental going. You have a winner's attitude and you continue to win in life, no matter what it throws at you. 5. If they ever do this again, police, you already have evidence, so just go for it. You can also consider having cameras around your property just for the property's safety. 6. Get yourself a family of your own, you deserve it, and once that's settled, send some mails asking your parents when will they move in the trailer to make room for your kids, and also let them know the rent they must pay to use your trailer. 7. If sister-in-law tries that again and you catch a second attack on camera, CPS may want to look at how stable she is to be allowed to raise kids.
Very important OP. Let your neighbors know if someone shows up moving things in or just walking around your property to call 911, then you. Get cameras and an alarm. They may break in and set up shop thinking, once they're in, you won't kick them out. Change your locks to the keypad-based type, harder to break in. Get a secured box at the bank and put all of your important papers in there. Deed, birth certificate, ID card, and a locked box for the financial information bills you need at home. If they manage to break in, that could be the first things they look for. Keep that recording, but I'd use it now to get a cease and desist and/or restraining order against sister-in-law. She is off the hook crazy. Please don't underestimate what she might do. Your parents have played a huge part in this. Make sure family members know the truth before they start spreading lies.
The OP's post made me furious. I mean, my heart is pounding as I write this. I have a narcissist of a sister of my own, but my gosh, she's just one narcissist, not a whole damn team. I'd like to add something to your excellent advice, please. The OP should hire a lawyer now. Tell the lawyer everything he wrote here, maybe have the lawyer even read his post above. Then the lawyer should help the OP take appropriate steps to make sure he and his property are as protected as possible. Installing cameras, maybe getting a weapon or dog, etc. All good ideas. But the OP needs a plan tailored to his needs and one which is completely within the laws of his jurisdiction, wherever that is. I believe that is crucial. The OP's so-called family is dangerous. Dangerous, cruel, pitiless, and obviously without even half a conscience between the 3 of them. They will try again, and probably soon. And they won't hesitate to exploit even the slightest angle for their own advantage. Narcissists are bullies, and one thing all bullies have in common is that they cannot tolerate even the appearance of a challenge to their power or egos. They will seek to neutralize at all costs anything they perceive as a threat, and to utterly destroy it if possible. Nomad, now I'm speaking directly to you. I don't know if you'll ever personally read this, but I hope you do, because I'm dead serious about it. You don't need anybody to tell you those people are vicious and capable of violence, but listen anyway, there may be no limits to how far these people are willing to go, to get your house and take revenge on you for telling them no. They want more than your property now. Please, Nomad, protect yourself. If ever anyone earned and deserves a secure, peaceful home of his own, it's you. You'll be in my prayers.
This isn't over by a long shot. People like that don't learn. Cameras everywhere, inside and out. Motion-activated lights on all sides of your home and property. They will be back, and they will damage your home and reputation. Contact a lawyer to set up a no-contact order. Even if you cannot get official paperwork, get a document sent to them from your lawyer stating that they are not to come onto your property and you do not want contact. This will create a paper trail. Go file with the police about the assault. Even if no charges are pressed, having it on record is extremely important. She can easily claim you hit her first, etc. You need to take this extremely seriously. Also make sure you have a will and a living will so that they cannot get your stuff nor make medical decisions for you should you ever be injured or in a coma.
OP, please do the following. 1. File a police report ASAP and show them the video. Don't hesitate on doing this. You owe these assholes nothing. 2. File a restraining order against all of them. 3. Install security cameras and an alarm system. 4. Purchase a gun for protection or get a large dog. 5. Post that video on FB so the rest of the family views it. They need to know what insane and entitled jerk's brother, his wife, and your horrible parents are. 6. Tell your boss at work in case they try to cause you trouble at your place of work. 7. If you are on friendly terms with your neighbors, show them the video and tell them to call the police if they see them around your home. I really hope you do this, especially the restraining order and police report. I wish nothing but the best for you. You deserve a family that loves you. I hope you find a nice wife and create your own loving family.
There are no bridges to save that they haven't already burnt. Report them to the police with the recording. Post that video everywhere so family and friends can see how crazy they are. Upgrade your security with cameras and a door camera. Reinforce the doors, windows, and locks. Never let them in. Ever. Get a protection order against crazy and pregnant. Don't let her fabricate any tall tales. Cut those fools completely and utterly from your lives, as there is no grounds to have them in it. These aren't family but strange assholes.
Watch your mail very closely. They may try to send themselves mail at your address, prove occupancy. I'm not from the US, but I've read that if you move in with somebody and you received mail in their place once, you cannot be easily evicted, even if your name is nowhere on the lease or other bills. To me, that's nightmarish enough. Would this also work if you never physically lived in a place? Could you just get some mail sent to a house and then claim your right to live there? This seems ridiculous. Would be grateful for an explanation.
Don't just threaten to press charges against her for the assault. Go ahead and press charges against her. Get a restraining order against your egg and sperm donors and their child and his wife. Inform your boss that they may come around and make trouble. Invest in a security system for your home alarms, cameras, guard dog. Let the extended family know about what they tried to pull with the video evidence and tell them how they couldn't care less when you were basically homeless. But since you managed to drag yourself out of that hole without any help from them and set yourself up with a house, they decided that they can just move in and take over while expecting you to move back into your camper and pay the mortgage and bills for the house.
I read it all, and I'm speechless. Family is the worst sometimes. Just keep your head up and stand your ground. What a bunch of crazies.
First, congratulations on your new home. You worked your tail off to get yourself into a home. This was not due to anyone but yourself and your tenacity to at first survive, but later to thrive and get yourself to a place that is yours. I want to say that I can't believe your family treated and continues to treat you so disrespectfully, but some people don't know that all of their kids matter, not just the favorite ones. Your family is not done here, and I eagerly await part 2. One thought on how they got your address may be through property tax records. Most counties in the US have the tax records available online for free. Most searches can be done with just first last name. It's amazing how much info can be gleaned from info sites on the internet. But I digress. File a police report for assault. I don't know if you got it on video or just audio, but a protective order should be easily attainable by going to your county clerk's office or the magistrate justice of the peace office to file. My husband works in this arena, so I speak only what I know from my area. You don't need an attorney here, but your mileage may vary in your area. I want to reiterate how proud I am, some stranger on the internet, of how well you did standing up against the people who have no concept of reality when it comes to someone's life and property. I am sending you stay strong vibes and hope things get better for you.
OP, this is literally only the beginning, you know that, right? They will stop at nothing to take your house. File police reports, camera inside and out, including a ring door camera. I can't stress this enough. Tell neighbors that these people are not allowed on your property and to call the police if they are seen anywhere around. I wouldn't put it past them to try and break in. Buy a safe and keep all your important documents for the house and yourself in there, and keep it locked and the key on you at all times. Get a cease and desist or a restraining order against all of them. You will need it, trust me. Good luck and do not back down.
You owe them nothing. Your brother and his wife mocked you when you were living in a camper.
They should in turn buy a camper and live in it. They are not entitled in any way to your house. I would suggest getting security cameras put in around your house, and a camera doorbell too. Also start AFU folder so you have proof of all your interactions with these POs. Also inform the police about what these pieces of crap are doing and get an order of protection against them all. If your parents, brother and sister-in-law, try to get you to let them stay in your house, offer to sell the camper to them for $1,000. Inform your neighbors that these pieces of crap are not allowed to be at your house. Also, if you want to get a dog to keep these pieces of crap away, inform any relatives that you have a good relationship with about what these pieces of crap tried to do. In other words, shame them. If you show the recording to a judge, he will quite likely give you a restraining order on them. Ensure that you have all your locks changed and install an alarm system in your house. Also ensure that you obtain a good lawyer so if they try anything you have all your bases covered. Also ensure that if anything happens, for example if you have a bad accident, they can't do anything while you are incapacitated. Also put a motion sensor light so that hopefully if they come to your house it will scare them off. Give power of attorney to someone you trust so that they can't weasel their way back into your life. Finally, block them on everything and live your best life without these POs. Do not allow them to guilt you into doing anything for them and report their actions to the police immediately.